What's up YouTube? My name is Chad. This is the Wisco Boater channel. Today I'm going to start part 2 of the underwater light installation. I'm running out of time this weekend, but the only thing I'm going to be able to do with the underwater lights is get the wire, what do you call these things? It's an escutcheon plate. Escutcheon plate. This is a escutcheon plate from Feria. I have 2 of these. We're going to cover the wires where they enter the transom with these, and then seal them with some marine silicone. I thought about using 3M 4000 on this, but it's above the waterline, and I don't really think there's any reason to do that. Most of these that get installed do get installed with marine silicone that is 100% waterproof. So that's what has sealed the inside of the wire, as you saw in the last video, part 1 of this. So that's what I'm going to use on the outside. And probably 2 or 3 weeks down the road when I get back up here, I will work on wiring the lights to the fuse panel and the switch. So, but all I have time for today is to get the escutcheon plates installed. So let's go out back and do that. Got our escutcheon, what are they called? Escutcheon plates. And a couple, got stainless steel screws. 2 for each side. So the first thing I need to do before we put this thing on is get some holes drilled. So this has just a bulbous part here that the wire can come out and go down without making too drastic of a turn. So we'll install just like that. Okay. I've got my drill bit marked just deep enough for the screws. So we shouldn't go all the way through. I will still put silicone on the screws though. Now, I'm going to put some silicone over the holes and the wire, and then I'm going to fill this channel with silicone. Cover the back plate with silicone also. So it should look like that. Then you put the wire at the top of it, or the plate over the top of the wire. Screws in the holes. Just like that. And we'll just use my finger to do a fillet all the way around. I'm going to leave the glop that came out around the wire. All right, that looks great. Let me show you a little closer view. Okay, you can see I put a fillet around the outside, and then I just left the glop of silicone that came out, surrounds the wire, so that is now sealed. And I got to go over and do the other side. I won't video that, but it's the exact same thing. And then we'll head inside and get the wiring hooked up to the fuse panel and put in a switch. All right, well, I'm back to work on the underwater lights. I'm going to hopefully use my picker here to fish it down through the helm station down to the engine room, and then pull the positive wire up so that I can connect it to the panel light switch. I'm not going to install a separate switch for the underwater lights. They're just going to be controlled by the same switch as the panel lights, so anytime the panel lights are on, the underwater lights will be on as well. There's a big bundle of wires that run from the helm station down to the engine room. I don't know if this is long enough. It's a 24-inch picker, but I'll see if I can make it work. So I'm gonna go up to the cockpit and start working on this. All right, a little bit of a change in direction on how I'm going to wire up the underwater lights. The helm station being up as high as it is, I don't have anything long enough to go from, well, down in the engine room, which is the wiring harness comes in up through that transition from the floor to the wall, and then runs all the way up to the helm station. It's probably about a 6 foot rise, and there's the harness just makes twists and turns. I've felt around as best as I could with a wire hanger, and undone wire hanger, and I just can't make the run to get the wire from the engine room up to the helm. So but the next thing I'm going to look at doing is running the wires from down in the engine room over to the DC panel, and then hook up the wires to the circuit breaker and the switch for the engine room light. This might be a better option anyway, because the way I was going to do it before, using the panel light switch, obviously those lights would be on, both those lights would be on, and you would see the panel lights, and you wouldn't be able to shut the underwater lights off and keep the panel lights on while running at night. So doing it this way, I can use the engine room light, which with the hatch closed, you won't see anyway, and then that way we'll just control the underwater lights with the engine room light that's on the DC panel, which is right here. So here we've got the engine room light circuit breaker here, and then the switch is right there. So I think I should be able to run the wires up through the floor. I'm going to pull the panel off, run the wires up, and then hook up the power to the switch, circuit breaker, and I think there's a ground back here, but if not, I can ground it down below. Okay, so you can see where the wires come in from the aft end of the boat, and then they are zip tied to another wiring harness over there, and then they run up to this wiring run, and then I can't really see it, but there's a hole right there where the wires go through, and that's where they come out up at the DC breaker panel. All right, here we have the wires. So that's the hanger rod that I use to fish the wires up through, and they came in right through there, and the breaker I'm going to use is over here. The switch is right there. All right, I've got the lights or the wires connected. So I've got positive coming off of the switch here, and the negative wire is on the ground bus. I used the same, what I believe to be the same ground wire that is associated with the engine room lights. So the way this works is you got power coming into the power bus, goes down the bar to the third circuit breaker. It's the one that's labeled number 79, and then power comes out of that, goes to the switch, which is 79, and then once the switch is closed, got power for the indicator light for the engine room, and then there's two other wires, 70-1 and 70-2, which I can't find on the wiring diagram, so I'm not really sure what they power, but the associated ground is over here, which is where I run the black wire. So lean our panel back up. I won't be able to see the underwater lights until it gets a little bit darker, but I can turn the engine room light back on. So we still have a green light, and the underwater lights should be on right now, but won't be able to tell till it gets a little bit darker. So I'll check that in here in a little bit, but let's make sure that the lights in the engine room do still come on, and they do. All right, so gets a little darker, I will test those out. All right, well, it's dark enough now. We'll turn on the engine room light circuit breaker and turn on the engine room light. Got a green light there. So let's go outside and see if we have underwater lights. It's looking good. Look at that. Both lights are on. Sweet. Success. So with the lights working, we'll get the DC panel put back in place and wrap this job up. Well, it's now about 10:20 or so at night. And you can see the lights are nicely illuminating the water. And they look fantastic. Watching this episode of the Wisco Boater channel. Hope you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, send me some comments, and if you want to be notified when I post new videos like this one, hit that notification bell. We'll see you next time on the Wisco Boater channel. Happy boating, everybody.